I was in Farmington the day after the pit rule was put into place. Every 2 weeks, they would process 33, on average, applications to begin drilling. The day that the pit rule was put in, the 33 dropped to 3. You all saw the effects of that in this last session last year when you had to raise taxes by 150 million because our receipts were coming down. I believe if we had had those oil and gas jobs working, that you would not have had to raise your taxes. And yet we're doing this to ourselves, and we're all kind of complicit in it. We're just not fighting back and not finding. I think that we should find the pendulum in the balance point to where we can protect the species, protect the workers, and preserve our environment and create jobs at the same time. Because I don't think that we're going to get balance any other way. And I believe that the consequences in 2032 are too dramatic, too frightening for us to contemplate. We must begin to grow the jobs in this country. The uranium mines and grants would provide great jobs, but instead we're importing our uranium from Russia. In Las Cruces, I was told by 3 companies in the same day that one DOT inspector had come up into their company and said, my job as DOT inspector is to put you out of business. With that mindset, we have a greater pressure on the creation of jobs. We have more uncertainty, and we have people who are not willing to create jobs, thinking that they might be put out of business. I believe that we can keep our streets and roads safe, but if we don't begin to work together to create jobs, our economy is simply going to fade away, and we're going to go the way of other nations. Nationally, the picture is no better. Converse no longer manufactures here. Fender Guitar, Etch-a-Sketch, Radio Flyer, Levi's, Craftsman Tools, Stanley Tools, USA Flags, Rawlings Baseballs, Commondale Bikes, Brax Candy, IBM Computers, NBA Uniforms. Those are just a sampling. Now, as we're considering the policies that would do that, now keep in mind, I think we can reach the balance point. I think BP should be 100% accountable for what happened offshore. That was the business that my wife and I were in. I understood the decisions they were making as they approached it, and they made big mistakes. But I do not think holding BP accountable should have translated into killing one job, and yet we have 33 deep water platforms that cost up to $5 billion apiece and took 15 years to build. They're steaming away because they've been shut down to not work again. 4 are gone beyond, they're already in Africa or South America. How can we continue to take these big chunks of jobs and idle them, and in the meantime begin to buy more oil from Saudi Arabia, or worse, from Venezuela? We buy oil from people who do not like us, have threatened to annihilate us and annihilate our country. And yet we continue to do this. We have to be conscious that as we raise taxes, businesses will want to leave away from us. That's the reason President Obama in his State of the Union said we've got to adjust down this corporate tax rate, because he's seeing the same numbers. I'm going to put some bills in that simply make us have the discussions. I don't know if they'll pass or not. We're going to create a piece of legislation that says, yes, we'll hold BP accountable, but let's start the people back to work offshore. The second one will be, yes, I want to keep the spotted owl alive, but let's start our timber workers back to work in New Mexico and around the country. The third bill that I want to put in is in the San Joaquin Valley. 2 years ago, 27,000 farmers were idled because of a 2-inch minnow. We can keep the 2-inch minnow alive in holding ponds and put it over into the river. But we lost those 27,000 jobs, and now then those farms that are in the area can't make their payments, and the banks are unstable. The lifestyle has gone from people who used to contribute to the 2.2 now taking from the 3.5, and it's putting upward pressure on our cost daily. So I'm going to say, hold the minnow, keep them alive in holding ponds, and put the 27,000 farmers to work. And when we do that, we're going to stop importing the vegetables that are unsafe. I was just on the border yesterday, and they said the biggest problem that we face now is bringing in vegetables that have been sprayed with things that we can't spray here. But the next biggest thing is that we're going to bring a disease in. Our men and women that are working at the border to keep our borders safe are saying the biggest threat we have is we could kill the entire agriculture industry here by bringing in one small insect, and yet we shut down the breadbasket, the source of vegetables for America, the San Joaquin Valley. Our friends, I would like for us as Republicans and Democrats to put this issue somewhere that we don't tear each other up over that. There are plenty of ways that we can tear each other apart. Please, we don't need this one. And let's begin to work together, because nobody, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, is benefited on the track that we're on. And in fact, we will be the caretakers who said that it just became dysfunctional on our watch. I believe, and the actuarial tables tell us, that if we'll simply grow our economy at 3.5%, that everything begins to fix. Your budget begin to work if we are growing the economy at 3.5%. This budget begins to work because this bottom number begins to go up. We're pulling people out of assistance and putting them down here. Social Security begins to work at 3.5% rate of growth. Medicare, Medicaid, we're at about 1.2% right now. 3.5% is not that hard. We've averaged that for the last 75 years. That's not a goal that's unachievable. But if we continue to let our jobs and force our jobs go overseas and force our jobs overseas, my friends, there is a desperate day that awaits us. And I, for one, don't want to say that I was trying to win an election by not curing the problem. I'm willing to work with Democrats, Republicans, Independents alike. And keep in mind, this is not me as a Republican lecturing you. This is what I'm telling our leaders in D.C. Because this 1.5, to put it in perspective, the cuts suggested by my leadership are 0.1. So we're going to go from 1.5 to 1.4. The ones that President Obama suggested would take us from 1.5 deficit to 1.45. In other words, he suggested $40 billion a year in cuts. We aren't going to get very far there. 1.5, and we're doing at our best, and by the way, our leadership has said we can't do the 1.1. We're going to drop that to 57 billion, and so our leadership and Mr. Obama are very similar. So this is not me talking at you. This is me saying, as an economist and as someone who loves this country and someone who loves the hope and opportunity that this country provides, that let's work together to solve the problem. If we work together, I sincerely believe that we'll spur our economy forward for another 50 years. I believe that we will be the magnet for everyone who wants a better life, like we've been for the last 150 years. I believe that it is achievable, and that's the reason that I'm here today talking about uncomfortable things. I hope that I haven't bored you with an economic talk. I hope I haven't put you off with depressing news, because at the end of the day, I'm not depressed. I actually believe that the pressures that we're facing here are going to cause us to pull together. I think they're going to cause us to work together. I think this is going to bring us on this issue across the partisan lines to find the solutions, to find that pendulum balance, to protect the species, protect our environment, and protect the worker, and yet provide jobs for a hungry nation. I think the nation is waiting and expectant, hoping for people who will stand up and lead.